What if everything we know about human history is wrong? What if our story didn't begin with us, but was simply reborn after something far greater vanished beneath the sands of time? Imagine a world before ours, a civilization so advanced, so powerful, that its memory was erased not by time, but by catastrophe. Long before the pyramids kissed the skies, before ancient Sumer carved its first words, what if another species of humans, or something else entirely, walked this earth, building wonders we can no longer comprehend? Deep beneath the oceans lie structures that defy explanation. In the jungles, ruins that predate recorded history whisper of forgotten empires. Myths from every corner of the world speak of gods descending from the stars, of floods that cleansed the earth, and of knowledge once lost. Could they all be fragments of a truth we've refused to see? Tonight, as you drift into sleep, let your mind wander through the shadows of Earth's hidden past. Relax, breathe deeply, and listen as we explore the haunting possibility that we were never the first, and perhaps we won't be the last. Chapter 1. Soft, slow voice tone. Imagine a gentle, deep narration as the listener drifts into thought. As the night settles and the noise of the world fades, imagine lying beneath an endless sky, stars glowing like ancient memories above you, each one burning for billions of years, watching everything that has ever lived on this planet rise, fall, and turn to dust. Tonight, we ask a question that feels almost forbidden. What if we're not the first? What if humanity, in all its brilliance and fragility, is not the beginning of civilization, but simply the latest chapter in a story that began long before recorded time? Our textbooks tell us the story of progress, that human civilization began around 10,000 years ago, when small bands of hunter-gatherers learned to plant seeds and tame animals. From there came villages, cities, empires, a steady climb toward the modern world. But what if that story is incomplete? What if there was a time before our time? A world advanced enough to leave behind traces, yet fragile enough to be erased almost completely by water, by fire, by the slow turning of the earth itself. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine. The year is not 2025, not even 10,000 BC. Imagine hundreds of thousands of years ago, long before pyramids, before Mesopotamia, before any name we know. Picture a world alive with cities made of shining stone, machines powered by the earth itself, people who understood the stars as if they were books. Their knowledge so vast it became myth. Their downfall so total it became silence. Beneath the calm waves of our oceans lie strange shapes that shouldn't exist. Structures of stone, terraces, walls, and pillars, resting in darkness, covered in coral, as if they've been asleep for ages. Scientists call them natural formations. But others look at their sharp angles, their deliberate patterns, and see the remains of a civilization lost long before ours began. What if these are not accidents of nature, but whispers of an older world? A forgotten humanity whose memory we've mistaken for legend? After all, every culture, from the frozen north to the tropical south, carries a story of destruction and rebirth. Floods that swallowed empires, fires that cleansed the earth, gods that warned, and people who didn't listen. Could these stories, passed down in different tongues, be fragments of a single memory, an ancient truth told through myth? As you breathe slowly, think about the rhythm of time, vast, unbroken, and circular. Civilizations rise like waves, crash into ruin, and fade away, leaving only traces for the next to find. We walk through ruins every day, yet never wonder if one day someone will walk through ours. Perhaps we, too, are just a layer in Earth's long story, a civilization unaware of its place in the cycle. The Earth has existed for 4.5 billion years. Humanity, in its modern form, has been here for maybe 300,000. Yet, in that thin sliver of time, we've built skyscrapers, split the atom, and reached into space. If we could do all this in such a short window, what could have been achieved in the millions of years before us? It's not impossible, just forgotten. Many scientists agree that most traces of our world would vanish after a few thousand years without maintenance. Skyscrapers would collapse, metal would rust, plastic would crumble, and forests would reclaim cities. In just 10,000 years, our monuments would be dust. Now imagine 100,000 years, or a million. How easily could a civilization as advanced as ours, or more, vanish completely? So maybe the question isn't did another civilization exist, but rather how many times has it happened? How many cycles of rise and fall has this planet witnessed, erasing each chapter before the next began? As you drift deeper into thought, imagine an ancient world lit by a sun just like ours. Its people standing on cliffs, gazing at the same stars, wondering if they were alone. They built, they dreamed, they reached for greatness. And then something happened. A flood, a shift, a storm, an ending. And all that remained were ruins buried beneath time. Perhaps one day, when we're gone, another civilization will rise. They'll find the remains of our cities, scattered fragments of metal, glass, and memory. And they'll ask the same question we whisper tonight. Were we the first? The air around you grows still. The stars remain silent witnesses. And as the world sleeps, the earth turns. Ancient, soft background hum of wind and distant ocean. Narration continues gently. The earth remembers, even when we forget. Beneath layers of soil, under silent seas, and deep within the frozen heart of the poles, lie memories far older than our recorded story. Our world has worn many faces. Continents have drifted, oceans have swallowed mountains, and time has washed away entire ages like footprints on a shore. What we call ancient might only be the latest layer of a much deeper past. When we look at our planet today, its deserts, forests, and deep oceans, it's easy to think we know it well. Yet over 90% of Earth's history remains hidden beneath our feet, buried under miles of rock, ice, and sediment. Only fragments of that deep time ever rise to the surface. Fossils, tools, stones, hints of lives that once were. But what if, within those forgotten layers, there lies evidence of civilizations that lived, thrived, and fell long before us? Consider the ocean, vast, cold, and patient. Nearly 70% of Earth's surface lies beneath its waters, most of it unexplored. It has swallowed coastlines, cities, even entire continents as sea levels rose and fell over eons. Scientists know that during the last ice age, sea levels were almost 400 feet lower. Great stretches of land that once connected continents are now hidden beneath the waves. What might have stood there before the flood? In places like the Gulf of Cambodge in India, strange formations rest on the seafloor, patterns of stone that look eerily deliberate, arranged in grids and lines like the foundations of forgotten towns. Off the coast of Japan, the Yonaguni Monument rises from the depths, massive terraces and steps carved into solid rock, as if shaped by human hands. Geologists debate whether it's natural or man-made, but when you look closely, the symmetry feels too precise, too ancient to dismiss. These mysteries whisper of an Earth that has lived through cycles of creation and destruction, a world constantly resetting itself. With every shift of the planet's axis, every eruption or flood, old worlds are erased and new ones begin. Our species believes it stands at the pinnacle of time. Yet the Earth may have seen this all before. Imagine a civilization so old that its ruins no longer stand on land but beneath miles of ocean. Imagine tools turned to dust, machines ground into minerals, stories lost to the deep. If such a civilization ever existed, the Earth would have hidden it perfectly, reclaiming every trace, folding it back into her skin until even memory dissolved. There is a strange comfort in this thought, because it reminds us that the Earth is far older than our pride and far wiser than our science. She has seen everything come and go, empires, species, oceans, even mountains. She knows that nothing lasts forever, not even us. When we walk through forests, when we touch ancient stones or breathe mountain air, we are touching time itself, the living memory of the planet. Every grain of sand, every drop of rain has seen civilizations rise and fall. The wind that moves across your face tonight may once have brushed the towers of a forgotten world. Our ancestors told stories about these lost ages. Plato spoke of Atlantis, a shining island that fell beneath the sea. The Sumerians wrote of kings who ruled for thousands of years before the Great Flood. The Egyptians, the Mayans, the Hindus, all spoke of cycles, golden ages followed by destruction and rebirth. Could all these tales be coincidence? Or are they fragments of a truth that survived the end of a world? As you breathe softly now, feel the rhythm of the earth below you, steady, eternal. Civilizations may vanish, but the planet endures. The mountains remain, the tides return, the stars continue their slow, patient dance. Maybe that's why our oldest instincts remember, through myth, through dreams, through an unexplainable pull toward the ancient. Something inside us knows we've been here before. The earth is not just our home, it's a storyteller. Its voice is quiet, but constant, carried in the whisper of leaves, the crash of waves, the stillness of stone. And if you listen long enough, if you let the silence stretch wide enough, you might hear the faint echo of an age when another people called this planet their own. They walked beneath the same sky, looked at the same stars, and vanished into the same sleep. Time, like the tide, erases all, but also across the world, scattered among mountains and deserts, carved into stone and whispered in temples. Humanity shares a strange memory, a memory of worlds before ours. Myths that speak not of beginnings, but of returns, of fires, floods, and forgotten empires that once ruled the earth before vanishing into time's long sleep. Though separated by oceans and centuries, these stories seem to tell the same tale, as if every culture heard the same echo, carried from one age to the next. The Sumerians, among the first known civilizations, told of the antediluvian kings, rulers who reigned for thousands of years before a great flood washed their world away. The Maya spoke of previous suns, ages of humanity destroyed and reborn. In the sacred texts of India, the Mahabharata describes weapons that shone brighter than 1,000 suns, as if recalling a war fought with forces beyond imagination. The Greeks spoke of Atlantis, a civilization blessed by the gods, destroyed in a single night of fire and water. And in the cold north, Norse myths spoke of Ragnarok, not as an end, but a cycle that would begin again. How could so many cultures, distant and unconnected, remember the same pattern? A golden age, a fall, a flood, a rebirth. Science calls them myths, stories shaped by imagination. But what if imagination is simply memory without context? Perhaps our ancestors remembered fragments of something real, something that happened long before written language could record it. When we read these myths, we see strange details, the mention of stars, of strange lights in the sky, of beings descending from above to teach humankind. The Egyptians called them gods. The Dogon people of Africa spoke of teachers who came from the Sirius star system. The Hopi of North America told of the ant people who sheltered them underground during the Great Flood. The Maori of New Zealand spoke of heavenly visitors who shaped the earth. Every culture, every land, carries its own version, different in detail, but the same in soul. Could these have been memories of an advanced people from a forgotten age, survivors of an earlier world, remembered as gods by those who came after? Or perhaps, simply stories told by the few who survived cataclysm, trying to explain the loss of a civilization too vast for words? As centuries passed, myth became religion, and religion became history. The line between truth and story blurred, but the message remained. Humanity had lived before and would live again. The ancients seemed to understand time not as a straight line, but as a circle, endless, repeating, like the seasons. Civilizations bloom, wither, and return. Each one thinks it is the first, yet all are leaves on the same eternal tree. Close your eyes and imagine those early storytellers, sitting around fires, beneath unfamiliar stars, speaking of a world long gone. They remembered towers that touched the clouds, machines that roared like thunder, cities that glowed even at night. They spoke of knowledge lost, of pride punished, of a time when humankind reached too high. Their stories became warnings, reminders that greatness can fade, and that the earth always takes back what was borrowed. Modern science tells us myth is fiction, the poetry of survival. Yet again and again, archaeology finds hints that these stories may hold a kernel of truth. Ruins older than history, maps older than memory, symbols carved in stone that speak of stars invisible to the naked eye. Who taught our ancestors to know these things? Maybe it doesn't matter whether these myths are literal truth. What matters is what they remind us, that we are part of something much older, much grander than we imagine. Humanity has always felt that pull, that deep sense of déjà vu when we look at the past, as if we are remembering ourselves. The pyramids, the megaliths, the lost temples, all seem to hum with a familiar frequency, like the echo of an ancient dream, and so the myths live on. Not as fantasies, but as whispers of continuity. The way the earth speaks through us, reminding us that time is not broken, only folded. When we dream of lost cities, when we feel awe standing before ancient ruins, we are connecting to those echoes, the pulse of civilizations that came before. As you lie still, the world outside fades. The myths blend with the rhythm of your breathing. You are part of that story, part of the endless pattern of birth, loss, and rebirth that defines this planet. The same earth that nurtured them now holds you. The same stars that guided them still shine above you. And somewhere, deep inside, the memory of that forgotten world still flickers, quiet, eternal, waiting to be remembered, because perhaps the myths were never fiction. Perhaps they were simply the first lullabies of history, sung to us by a world that has lived, died, and dreamed more times than we will. The earth keeps secrets in stone. Across deserts, deep jungles, and far below the sea, there are structures that do not fit neatly into the story we've written for ourselves. Some stand so old that their makers' names are lost. Others rest half-buried, as if the planet tried to hide them again. Each one whispers the same quiet question: who built this, and when? In the highlands of Turkey lies Göbekli Tepe, a circle of towering pillars older than any known city, carved with animals that walked the earth 12,000 years ago. When archaeologists uncovered it, the timeline of civilization had to stretch backward thousands of years overnight. Before the pyramids, before writing, before pottery, someone arranged stones weighing tons into sacred geometry, then buried them with care. It is as if a forgotten people wanted to leave a message for a future they would never see. Far away, on the Bolivian plateau, stands Tiwanaku and its companion, Pumapunku, ruins cut from andesite blocks so precise that even modern engineers pause. The edges interlock like puzzles, their surfaces smooth as if shaped by machines. Legends say the site was built in one night by gods who came from the stars. Scientists offer slower explanations, tools, trial, and time, yet the mystery remains. How did people at such altitude, with no written language and limited metal, carve stone with the accuracy of modern lasers? As moonlight passes over these ancient forms, the mind drifts. Were these places the scattered remains of an older world, survivors of an age washed away by flood or flame? Or are they reminders that humanity's story may be far deeper and far more mysterious than the brief chapters we know? Beneath the ocean's calm surface lies a second Earth, dark, silent, and unexplored. The water hides everything time wished to forget. Entire landscapes rest there, shrouded in stillness, untouched for thousands of years. When the waves retreat during low tide in certain places, strange shapes sometimes appear, straight lines, walls, and steps, the faint outlines of what might once have been cities. Off the coast of Japan, in the warm waters near Yonaguni Island, divers discovered something extraordinary. Rising from the seabed, immense terraces and stairways seem carved from solid rock. Each level aligns in perfect order, like a sunken temple frozen in place. Scientists argue. Some call it natural erosion, others whisper of an ancient hand that shaped it. But as the light filters down through blue water, touching the sharp edges of stone, it feels less like coincidence and more like memory. In India's Gulf of Khambhat, sonar scans revealed geometric patterns beneath the waves, outlines that resemble streets, walls, and courtyards. Sediment tests suggest these formations could be 9,000 years old, far older than the Indus Valley civilization. If true, it would mean that an advanced culture thrived there before history officially began, only to vanish beneath a rising sea. The ocean keeps its secrets well. Waves smooth every corner. Coral claims every surface, and silt drifts slowly over the evidence until it becomes a dream. Perhaps that is why we still search, because some quiet part of us remembers the flood. Maybe that memory survives in the stories our ancestors left behind, the tales of Atlantis, Mu, and Lemuria. They may not be literal places, but echoes of something real. Civilizations erased by the same waters that now rock us gently to sleep. Breathe in, slowly. Feel the rhythm of the sea, steady, eternal. It is the same rhythm that once beat in the hearts of those who lived before us, their stories rising and falling like tides. High in the Peruvian Andes, the thin air carries a quiet hum. There, between cloud and stone, lie the remains of walls so perfectly fitted that even a sheet of paper cannot slide between the blocks. Sacsayhuaman, Ollantaytambo, Machu Picchu, names that roll softly like ancient prayers. Each stone weighs many tons, yet every curve matches its neighbor with the grace of a puzzle solved by intuition rather than tools. The builders left no records, only harmony carved into rock. Far across the ocean, on Easter Island, the Moai stand watch, silent faces gazing toward the horizon as if remembering a world that has already passed. Buried bodies beneath the heads reveal full statues, some weighing more than 70 tons, moved somehow across miles of uneven land. The islanders' legends say the statues walked into place, guided by chance and rhythm. Science offers ropes and levers, but even the scientists speak softly here, humbled by what they see. And then there are the Baalbek stones of Lebanon. 3 carved blocks, each over 1,000 tons, forming part of a platform whose purpose is still debated. Nearby rests an even larger monolith, half buried, its sheer size beyond anything our modern cranes could lift. Why build with such impossible weight? For whom were these foundations meant? The wind has no answer. It simply moves through the ruins, the same way it once brushed the faces of their makers. As night deepens, the idea grows gentler. Maybe these impossibilities are not challenges to explain, but invitations to wonder. The earth holds its mysteries the way the sea holds pearls, hidden, quiet, patient. Every ancient stone is a lullaby in solid form, reminding us that long before we learned to measure, to map, to prove, people already understood beauty, alignment, and the pull of the stars. Every ruin tells a story, but most of the stories are unfinished. For every monument that stands in sunlight, thousands more lie hidden beneath soil, sand, and sea. Some will never be found. Others will reveal themselves when the earth is ready. Time, it seems, has its own sense of secrecy. Archaeologists call it erosion or tectonic activity, but perhaps it's simpler to think of it as the planet's gentle way of turning a page. When a city dies, the wind covers it. The rain wears it down. The forest reclaims it. In a few thousand years, a skyline becomes a hill. In a few million, it becomes stone. If humanity vanished tomorrow, even our greatest achievements, our glass towers, our satellites, our monuments, would fade completely. Only whispers would remain. Oh, how many worlds have already faded. How many layers of civilization lie beneath our feet, erased by flood, swallowed by forest, ground into dust by time. When we find a carved stone in a place it shouldn't be, or a tool embedded in ancient rock, maybe we're not discovering something new. Maybe we're rediscovering something forgotten. In a way, the earth is a living library, but one that rewrites itself. Every few ages, it starts anew, each page layered over the last, inked with the rise and fall of worlds that believed they would last forever. Ours is just one of those pages, written in glass and steel instead of stone. As you listen now, let that thought bring you peace, not fear. Because even if civilizations vanish, the story continues. The mountains still stand, the stars still shine, and the same wind that once passed over lost empires still moves softly through the night around you. Close your eyes. The ruins rest in silence, and so can you. The earth remembers everything, and she never truly forgets. The earth has a heartbeat that we can't always hear. It beats in the shifting of continents, the trembling of volcanoes, the long breath of the ice advancing and retreating. Every few ages, that heartbeat quickens, and the planet exhales with power so vast it reshapes everything upon it. We call these moments extinction events, but they might also be resets, pauses between the verses of a song the earth has been singing since the beginning. When an age ends, it rarely does so quietly. Sometimes it ends in fire, mountains erupting, skies darkened with ash, sunlight swallowed by clouds of dust. Sometimes it ends in ice, oceans withdrawing, the air sharpening, life retreating to the edges. And sometimes it ends in water, the floods that wash clean, the oceans that rise to erase. Yet after every ending, the rhythm returns. Life begins again, different but familiar, as if remembering an earlier melody. Scientists have found layers in the rocks, thin seams of ash and clay that mark where worlds have burned, drowned, and frozen before ours. The Permian extinction, the Cretaceous impact, the mysterious younger Dryas cold pulse, each a scar across deep time, each a whisper of how fragile civilization truly is. When we speak of lost worlds, perhaps we're not imagining enough. Maybe they were real. Maybe they thrived, until the planet took a breath, and the cycle turned once more. Close your eyes for a moment. Feel your own breath rise and fall. It's the same rhythm that moves through oceans, through forests, through the molten heart of the earth itself. Everything alive shares that pulse, including the civilizations that came before. They, too, must have watched the sky darken, must have wondered if the dawn would return. When we picture the end of a world, our minds often turn to images of chaos, fire tearing through cities, waves swallowing coastlines, skies glowing red. But endings are not always violent. Sometimes they unfold in silence. A slow dimming of light, a long fall of snow, the quiet stillness before the wind changes direction. Scientists speak of the Younger Dryas, a period more than 12,000 years ago when the world, already thawing from the last ice age, suddenly froze again. Rivers turned to stone, seasons collapsed, and somewhere, perhaps in a valley now buried beneath glaciers or oceans, a people who had learned to build, to farm, to dream, may have watched their world vanish beneath frost and storm. Other stories speak of fire, of continents scorched by falling stars, of dust that hid the sun for years, of forests turned to ash. The Chicxulub impact, 65 million years ago, ended the reign of the dinosaurs. But what else might it have ended? If another intelligence had risen before us, would we even know? Or would it, too, have been reduced to dust and memory? The earth resets not with cruelty, but with purpose. She clears and renews, erasing the scars of her surface so that life can begin again. What feels like destruction may only be transformation. The way a forest must burn for seeds to bloom, or how a river must flood to reshape the land. So perhaps the end of each civilization is not a tragedy, but a breath, an inhale and an exhale in the endless lungs of time. Between one breath and the next, something new is born. And in that quiet space between destruction and renewal, the earth remembers and waits after every great ending. The earth falls silent for a while. The air cools, the seas steady, the forests creep back across the wounded land. In that silence, new life begins to whisper. Tiny, fragile forms, moss, insects, the smallest of fish, begin the patient work of restoration. It takes millions of years for the rhythm to rise again, but it always does. The pattern is older than memory, older than the continents themselves. And within each renewal, there may be echoes, small signs that something came before. A mineral pattern too deliberate to be chance. A fragment of alloy in stone too ancient to hold it. Or a myth that feels older than the people who tell it. These are faint ripples, like voices carried across a lake in mist. They do not prove, they only suggest. But suggestion can be powerful. It keeps curiosity alive. Every civilization, ours included, builds on forgotten foundations. We think of our world as the first to dream of stars, to shape metals, to carve meaning into stone. Yet the planet beneath us has turned and turned, layering stories one upon another. Perhaps what we call progress is only remembrance, the unconscious memory of lessons learned long ago, resurfacing in a new form. Imagine if the knowledge of electricity, flight, or medicine were not inventions, but rediscoveries. If long before us, others had walked the same paths, reaching heights we can scarcely imagine, only to vanish into the slow erasure of time. The idea sounds impossible, yet the earth has erased far greater things. Mountains crumble, oceans shift. Why not memory itself? And still, through it all, life finds a way. The echoes never disappear completely. They wait, in fossils, in myths, in the quiet pull of intuition that tells us we've been here before. The reset clears the surface, but not the soul of the world. That remains, patient and eternal, waiting for consciousness to rise again. And remember, the earth never forgets. She holds the memory of every sunrise, every storm, every heartbeat that ever lived upon her. But her memory is not written in words. It's carved into stone, hidden in fossils, whispered in magnetic lines that flow through the crust of her ancient body. Some say the planet herself is conscious, that her oceans and mountains are the organs of a vast living being. If that's true, then perhaps the rise and fall of civilizations are simply the dreams of that consciousness, vivid, fleeting, and endlessly reborn. Each age, each people, each spark of intelligence is a thought drifting through her mind, shining briefly before fading into the deep hum of eternity. When a civilization falls, the earth does not mourn. She simply breathes and dreams again. The ruins become soil. The bones turn to dust. The noise of our world, the engines, the voices, the lights, will one day quiet, too. And in their silence, seeds will stir beneath the ash. Perhaps those seeds will grow into something familiar, or perhaps into something entirely new. Another version of us, walking again beneath the same stars, wondering if they were the first. The cycle will begin anew, just as it always has. So as you lie still now, breathing softly, remember that you are part of that memory. Every cell of your body is made from the remnants of stars, of oceans, of forgotten worlds. You are not apart from the earth. You are her continuation, her dream, still unfolding. Rest, then. Let your breath move with hers. The Great Reset is not an ending. It is the beginning again. The planet sleeps, and you, too, can drift into that same timeless calm, knowing the story will rise once more when morning comes. When you walk across the ground, you are never walking on emptiness. Beneath every step lie stories, countless and silent, pressed together like pages of a book written in stone. A single handful of soil may hold the dust of comets, the shells of vanished seas, the ash of forgotten fires. The earth is deep with memory, deeper than we can ever dig. Archaeologists call it the stratigraphy of time, each layer a record, each grain a fragment of a long-ago moment. The topmost layers speak of us, our roads, our cities, our bones. But far below, the lines grow older, darker, stranger. Traces of forests that no longer exist, coastlines that rose and fell, and sometimes, shapes that do not fit any story we know. In the deserts of Africa, tools have been found older than history itself. In the caves of Europe, carvings hint at minds far more complex than we once believed. And deep beneath the Pacific, sonar has traced patterns that look like architecture, terraces, walls, and steps too deliberate for chance. Science hesitates, calling them formations of nature. Yet in the quiet hours of the night, it is easy to wonder, perhaps the earth buries more than fossils. Perhaps it hides the evidence of those who came before, not to deceive us, but to protect what was once precious. The planet keeps secrets as gently as it keeps seeds in winter, waiting for the right season to reveal them. So when your feet touch the floor, or the sand, or the grass, imagine the layers beneath you stretching down through time, through empires and ice ages, through eras when other eyes once looked up at the same stars. You are not merely standing on Earth. You are standing on history itself. Sometimes the planet reveals her secrets in fragments, small, quiet clues that whisper rather than shout. A pattern in a mountain ridge that looks too precise. Circular depressions in the jungle that line up like the foundations of forgotten cities. Magnetic anomalies beneath the ice that pulse like the outlines of structures long buried. Most dismiss them as coincidence, the work of wind, erosion, or shifting plates. But nature, though wild, rarely repeats such precise geometry. Straight lines, right angles, symmetrical forms. These are the fingerprints of intelligence, whoever's it may have been. And those patterns appear again and again in places untouched by modern hands. Consider the Antarctic anomalies, vast regions beneath the frozen continent where satellites detect shapes that should not exist. Some say it's volcanic rock. Others, the remnants of an ancient base, a civilization swallowed by ice tens of millennia ago. The truth is still hidden beneath miles of frozen time. Yet the idea lingers, hauntingly beautiful, that beneath that endless white, a whole world might be sleeping. Or think of Yonaguni, off the coast of Japan, stone terraces and stairways that plunge into the deep sea. Nature, some say, but the symmetry, the carving, the placement, it all feels too deliberate, too human. Perhaps not our kind of human, but another's. One who walked these coasts before the oceans rose. Each mystery connects to another, forming a quiet map of possibility. A web of faint reminders that maybe we are not the first dreamers to shape this earth. Perhaps we are simply the latest chapter, reading faint echoes of the last. When you close your eyes tonight, imagine those patterns glowing softly beneath the ground, lights beneath the layers, waiting for discovery. The planet sleeps, but her memory shimmered just below the surface, patient and eternal. Stone remembers what paper forgets. It has no language, no ink, and yet it speaks, across centuries, across oceans, across the silence of extinction. Long after words fade and cities crumble, stone remains. And sometimes, when the light falls just right, it seems to whisper stories older than we can comprehend. Across the world, there are carvings and monuments that do not fit easily within our history. The Sacsayhuaman walls of Peru, built from stones so massive and precise that even modern tools would struggle to place them. The Baalbek stones of Lebanon, each one heavier than a jetliner, lying stacked with impossible balance. The pyramids, aligned not by accident but by design. Their angles tracing constellations, their shadows marking the passage of stars. How? We ask, could ancient hands have built such wonders? The answers, perhaps, lie not in their strength but in their memory. Maybe they were following instructions left from those who came before, civilizations that had already mastered the geometry of the heavens, who understood how stone could hold energy, alignment, and time. Not aliens, not fantasy, but forgotten people whose knowledge slipped quietly beneath the waves of history. Every block, every carving, every alignment is a message, not written for us, but still waiting to be read. The ancients may have known that nothing lasts forever, that paper burns and metal rusts. But stone endures. It is their final language, a whisper from the past saying, "We were here." And as you listen, as your breath slows and your eyes grow heavy, imagine running your hand across one of those ancient walls. Feel the cool surface beneath your fingers, the weight of ages pressing through the stone. That texture is time itself, the closest you can come to touching eternity. The earth is not just a stage for life, she is alive herself. Every mountain, every wave, every gust of wind is part of her quiet breathing. She shifts and sighs and renews, slowly but surely, in rhythms too long for us to see. And within her living body lie the bones of worlds she has already known. Somewhere deep below us, there may still rest the fingerprints of those ancient civilizations. Buried cities turned to stone, oceans hiding the remains of once great temples, forests growing where towers once touched the clouds. The earth has covered them gently, the way a mother tucks her child beneath a blanket. Not to hide them in shame, but to let them sleep. Sometimes she reveals glimpses, a fragment of pottery in a place it shouldn't be, a pattern in the rock that looks too deliberate, a legend that feels like memory. These are not coincidences. They are small awakenings, reminders that the past is not as distant as we think. If you listen carefully, in the hush before dawn or the silence after rain, you might even hear her voice. It's not in words, but in a feeling, a deep, knowing calm that hums beneath your feet. The same energy that once guided lost civilizations still moves through roots, rivers, and the pulse within your own chest. You are walking upon a living archive, a breathing memory. Every step you take is a page turned in an infinite book, each one written by the hands of those who came before. And though their names have faded, their spirit continues, through stone, through soil, through you. Rest now, and let the heartbeat of the earth lull you toward sleep. The signs are all around, woven into every breath, every sound, every grain of sand. The planet remembers, and in her memory, you are eternal. Knowledge is a flame, fragile, beautiful, and often fleeting. It burns brightly for a time, lighting the path of a people, before wind or water or time itself dims its glow. Yet even when extinguished, its warmth lingers, in myth, in instinct, in dreams. Every civilization believes it is the first to know, the first to measure the stars, to harness energy, to map the hidden workings of the world. But what if we are simply remembering? What if somewhere deep in the shared human memory lies the faint afterglow of wisdom from those who came before? Throughout the world, fragments of forgotten science hide within legend. The ancient stories of Atlantis speak not only of pride and punishment, but of energy, of crystals that glowed with power, of machines that harnessed the Earth's magnetic field. The myths of India describe flying crafts, vimanas, powered by engines of light. In the ruins of Egypt, we find carvings that some say show electrical devices, resonant chambers, even maps of the stars made with impossible precision. Perhaps these are metaphors, or perhaps they are memories, echoes of a time when humanity, or something like humanity, understood the deep harmonies of nature far better than we do now. Knowledge not of domination, but of balance, not of control, but of coexistence. And maybe, just maybe, some of that wisdom still lives in us, in the way music stirs our souls, in the way we are drawn to the sea, in the way our hearts calm at the sound of rain. The body remembers what the mind forgets. The earth remembers through you as you listen now. Let your mind drift through that vast archive of forgotten understanding, a quiet library of light that exists not in books, but in the soul of the planet itself. Somewhere in your dreams tonight, that ancient flame may flicker again. Everything in the universe hums. From the smallest atom to the widest galaxy, there is motion, vibration, rhythm. Long before equations or machines, perhaps the ancients felt this harmony directly, not as science, but as song. They may have understood that every stone, every wave, every living thing carries a frequency, and that to live in balance is simply to listen. Some monuments seem to remember this truth. The chambers inside the Great Pyramid resonate at precise tones that match the human heartbeat. The standing stones of Europe hum faintly in the wind, aligned to the turning of the seasons. Even the shapes of ancient temples mirror the spirals of shells and galaxies, as if their builders knew that form and energy speak the same silent language. Modern instruments can measure those vibrations, yet our understanding is still young. We chase power through wires and screens, forgetting that the first power was not taken, it was tuned. To light a city, we burn and build, but to light a soul, we need only stillness. The people before us may have known how to use sound, magnetism, and light not to conquer, but to heal. Imagine a world where cities sang instead of roared, where energy flowed like breath through stone streets, keeping balance rather than taking it. Perhaps that knowledge was never truly lost, only quieted, waiting for minds calm enough to hear its echo again. As you rest, feel the vibration of your own breathing, the gentle pulse behind your ribs. That rhythm is the same one that turns the tides and stirs the stars. You are part of the same language, the language of energy, and it is still being spoken, softly, through you. Some discoveries leave behind blueprints, gears, and metal. Others leave behind only silence. The deepest knowledge, the kind that shapes the soul rather than the hand, doesn't need machines to survive. It lingers in instinct, in the quiet ways life learns to thrive again after every storm. That if forgotten civilizations once mastered technology, it might not have looked anything like ours. Their tools may not have been made of steel or plastic. They may have built with vibration, not metal, with resonance, not fire. Perhaps their machines were living, trees that generated light, crystals that carried thought, water guided through the earth like blood through veins. That we find traces of strange alloys in ancient layers of rock, carved quartz that glows unnaturally, magnetic stones aligned to constellations long vanished from the night sky. Science explains most of them as chance, but a few resist explanation. They whisper that intelligence has touched this planet before, and then there are the stories, scattered across cultures that never met. Tales of cities in the sky, of bridges that shone like glass, of voices that could call the rain. Could these be memories of those silent inventions? Technologies of harmony, now erased by the passing of ages? Perhaps the greatest minds of that forgotten world knew something we are only beginning to remember, that creation and destruction are the same rhythm in different notes. To build forever, you must build in balance, with nature, not against it.so. If the earth once held cities of light and songs of energy, maybe their silence now is not loss, but rest. A pause in a long, beautiful melody that never truly ends. The song waits patiently beneath the noise of our modern world, a lullaby from the deep past, waiting to be remembered in the stillness between dreams. Not all memory is written in books or buried beneath the ground. Some of it lives within us, deep in the marrow, the mind, the soul. It hums beneath thought, older than language, older than fear. When you stand before the ocean and feel both wonder and familiarity, when the stars draw your gaze upward without reason, that is the ancient memory stirring. Maybe the wisdom of those who came before us never truly vanished. Perhaps it was carried forward the only way it could be, through life itself, through us. We are, after all, made from the same dust that once built their worlds, the same minerals that shaped their hands, the same atoms that once moved in their hearts. There are moments when people invent the same thing in different places at the same time, with no connection between them. Scientists call it simultaneous discovery. But what if it's something deeper? What if the knowledge isn't new at all, but remembered? A spark relit from an older flame, flickering quietly in the human spirit. Dreams, intuition, déjà vu. Maybe these are small awakenings. A glimpse of something older within us. A faint echo from a forgotten age. We reach for the stars not because they are new to us, but because once, long ago, we already knew their names. You lie still. Let that thought wrap around you like warmth. The knowledge of the universe is not something we must find. It is something we are returning to. Every breath, every heartbeat, every quiet realization is part of a long remembering. The forgotten civilizations may have fallen, but their wisdom did not die. It lives, sleeping softly, in you, waiting for silence, for calm, for the perfect moment to awaken again. The memory of the earth is the memory of us, and it never truly fades. The earth has never stood still. She turns, not only in space, but in time, through ages of light and darkness, through silence and song. Every rise is followed by a fall, and every fall gives birth to something new. It is the oldest pattern in existence, the rhythm of becoming. Civilizations are like seasons. They bloom, they flourish, and eventually, they fade. But nothing is ever truly lost. What falls returns in another form, another name, another sky. The soil that once fed one forest will one day feed another. The stones that built forgotten temples may rise again in new hands. Even the stars we gaze upon tonight are not the same that shone on ancient eyes. Yet they burn with the same light that we measure time in years, in centuries, in history books filled with dates. But to the earth, these are just moments, soft ripples upon an ocean of endless change. We are one of those ripples, sparkling briefly before merging back into the great tide. And in that merging, there is no loss, only continuity. Maybe this is the true story of life, not a straight line, but a circle. Each age remembers a little more, each one rising higher, reaching further. Then, when the balance tilts, the earth breathes out, and the cycle begins again. You listen, breathe with her. In and out, rise and fall. The same breath that moves through mountains and storms now moves gently through you. You are part of the rhythm, part of the turning. And just as night becomes day, every ending becomes a beginning. Somewhere far beyond the noise of the modern world, the planet is still whispering. In the low hum of waves against forgotten cliffs, in the quiet breathing of forests that have seen countless dawns. If you listen closely, you can almost hear the echo of what came before, not as words, but as a feeling, a rhythm, a pulse beneath everything. It is the quiet return, the moment when the earth reclaims her stories. The concrete crumbles, vines creep through the cracks, and nature begins to rewrite what civilization once inscribed. What was steel and glass slowly softens back into soil. What was built by hands returns to dust, not in defeat, but in renewal. The air itself remembers. In every raindrop, there are atoms older than the sun, particles that have drifted through ancient lungs, ancient seas, ancient hearts. You are breathing in the memory of all that has ever been. You are part of the great returning, part of the cycle that never truly ends. Civilizations may rise in brilliance, paint their names across the sky, and then vanish into myth, but the earth endures. She is patient, unhurried. For her, time is not a line. It is a circle of infinite becoming, where every death is only another dawned as you rest. Let that thought settle softly in your chest, that endings are never endings at all, only gentle turns of the wheel. The same wheel that carried them will carry us too, until one day, perhaps far from now, we too will return quietly, folded into her embrace. And then, after the silence, comes the light. It begins softly, like a sigh through the clouds. The air warms, the shadows shift, and something ancient within the earth stirs again. Seeds that have slept for centuries awaken beneath the soil. Rivers carve new paths through forgotten valleys. Life, in its quiet genius, begins again, painting green where there was gray, and gold where there was nothing at all. The new dawn doesn't rush. It arrives slowly, the way all miracles do. Somewhere, beneath a sky unscarred by towers or smoke, new eyes open. They see the sun for the first time, or perhaps for the millionth. They do not know the stories of the ones who came before, but in their hands, their hearts, their curiosity, the echoes live on. A spark of invention, a longing to explore, a question whispered into the wind. Who are we? That question is the first sign of rebirth. It means memory is stirring again, wrapped in new flesh, new minds, new dreams. And so, history breathes once more. The ruins become foundations. The myths become lessons. The earth watches as another civilization rises, one more chapter in her endless story. You can almost hear her smile in the wind, for she knows this cycle well. The rise, the fall, the silence, and the dawn. Always the dawn, and so the story turns once more, quietly, effortlessly, like a tide returning to shore. Everything that was becomes again. The dust of fallen empires drifts into the air, becoming the breath of new life. The bones of lost creatures sink into stone, and from that stone, new worlds will rise. Even light itself, after traveling for ages through the cold of space, finds a place to rest, in the warmth of another dawn. Perhaps that is the secret of existence. Not progress, not conquest, but return. A rhythm older than time itself, expansion, collapse, renewal. The same heartbeat that began with the first spark of the universe still pulses in every leaf, every ocean, every soul that dares to dream. When we sleep, we join that rhythm. We surrender to the quiet turning, to the small death and gentle rebirth that happens with every night and day. And in that surrender, we remember what all great civilizations once knew, that nothing is ever truly lost. Every echo finds its way home. Every light returns to close your eyes. Feel the earth beneath you, ancient and alive. You are part of her memory, not apart from it. You are the continuation of a billion forgotten stories, the dream of worlds reborn. And as you drift deeper into rest, let the question fade into the stars above you. What if we're not the first? And what if we were never meant to be the last? The universe breathes, and you breathe with it. The cycle continues.